Good morning, students, and welcome to week 6 of your compressed developmental writing class. This is the week 6 video. You have officially reached the midterm point in the class, and I hope that you are feeling better about your writing. I know that I have been really hard on some feedback for you, but my goal is for you to become a better writer. So I'm just going to go over what we're going to be doing this week. Make sure that I can share my screen here. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about parenthetical citations. Parenthetical citations are very, very important. I do want to quickly go over the objectives for the week, just so that you are aware of what they are. Your objectives for this week in week 6 are listed under your course date. Let me just go ahead and share my screen, and then I'll go back to the PowerPoint. My goodness gracious. Still learning this Zoom thing, so I apologize in advance for this. Hopefully you should be able to see the screen, but then again, I don't know. Let me just double check here. Minimize myself. Can't do that. Okay, share screen. There we go. All right, so you should be looking at your Brightspace window for this week. And remember, please, that you will be seeing the instructor view. So this is week 6, the midterm week. Our objectives this week are to understand the role of credible evidence in strong writing, to learn how to integrate evidence smoothly into essays, to practice avoiding plagiarism through proper citation, to strengthen weak arguments by adding relevant, credible support, and understand how to employ proper signal phrases into academic writing. I do have this note here under week 1 or week 6 objectives, and that is, in order for you to see the assignments, you have to view all the content. And that is a restriction that I have placed just to make certain that you are viewing the videos and you are making sure to go through the PowerPoints and taking notes, because trying to do the assignments without watching the instructional videos can make things very difficult for you and can result in a lower grade. So you're going to read your assigned chapters in the Simple Math of Writing Well that's in your course calendar. You're going to view the PowerPoint, take notes, view and take notes on signal phrases. All of that is located under content. Then after you do that, then you're going to complete the parenthetical citation grammar practice. You cannot do that until after you have viewed the videos and looked at the signal phrases information. Then you will read the excerpt that you have for the week, and then you'll complete your writing notebook entry. And then you have a midterm reflection assignment and a weekly grammar quiz. This seems like a lot of work, but you don't have to do any work over spring break. So nothing is due until the week of the 25th. So you have more than adequate time to get these assignments done. I will be out of the office and out of state and out of town for spring break, so I will not be answering my emails. I will not be answering texts or calls or anything during that time. I will return to town on March 21st, but you can reach out to me then if you have questions, or if you want to send me an email while I'm away, you can do that. I just won't be answering emails while I'm out of state. So, like I said, I'm taking a very much needed break and a much needed rest. So just FYI, if you have questions, you can send an email and I'll be happy to reach out to you. But the college is closed and we have been instructed to not answer emails. So if you ever have any questions, of course, you know that I'm always here to reach out. Your parenthetical citations PowerPoint is as a PDF because it needs to be accessible and easy to read. And so that is there. You can print it if you would like to have that. And I always recommend printing the things that I have posted because they are really good references and you can carry them with you as you move through and move towards a completion in this course and onto 1101. Then you have signal verbs and phrases reference sheet that I've created for you as well. This is a web page, so this is something you can just copy and paste onto a Microsoft Word document and print. Your excerpt is here. It is called My Name. It is from the novel The House on Mango Street, and it was written by Sandra Cisneros. Your parenthetical citation practice is your grammar practice. And again, remember, you must view all of these before you're able to start that. And then your writing notebook entry is on lived experience and evidence. In My Name from the House on Mango Street, Sandra Cisneros explores the emotional and cultural significance of Esperanza's name, how it shapes her identity and feelings of belonging. And so you're going to connect your issue that you identified on week 1 to the excerpt to strengthen your argument, but you do need to use evidence from Cisneros' text. That being said, you'll need to make sure you use a proper citation for your source. And I'm getting ready to go over that in the PowerPoint for you as well. I do want to add under your assignments, if you're ever lost and you can't find anything, you can always look and find where your assignments are. This is your midterm reflection. It is located on the second page of your assignment list. So please make sure you do that and don't forget about that because that is a very important grade. And it's due on the 25th of March for you. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing here and I'm going to go into the PowerPoint on parenthetical citations. So I'm going to share my screen again and we'll go back into the PowerPoint just so that we can talk a little bit about what a parenthetical citation is and a guide to making sure that you are using your sources properly in MLA style. Because when you make a claim in an essay, it's really important that you are able to let your reader know where the evidence is coming from. Credible evidence only comes from reliable sources, such as scholarly articles, books, reputable news sources, or academic databases, and that will come later on in the course. But using credible sources actually strengthens your argument, and it shows that your ideas are supported by research rather than just personal opinion. So what are parenthetical citations? You're probably wondering now. These are things that are credit sources that appear directly within your text. They will appear in parentheses, hence the name parenthetical, which is a derivative of the word parentheses, at the end of a sentence, and that typically includes the author's last name and a page number with no comma in between them. This is one of the biggest errors I see students make is that they put commas or P's in their parenthetical citations, and we won't use either. So I do have here just an example here. It's, just an example of what a parenthetical citation looks like, and I've highlighted it in yellow. You have 2 authors here, and you have the page number, no comma, and then at the bottom here I have Smith 23 as well. One of the first questions I usually get asked is, when do you need a citation? You will need a citation when you cite sources for direct quotes, for ideas that you paraphrase, or ideas that you summarize. So if the idea is not originally yours, you must credit the original person that said it. And that's critically important when you are writing academically. So your basic format for a parenthetical citation, you have several. So if you only have one author, you'll include the last name and the page number of the author. If you have 2 authors, you will list both last names, Smith and Jones, for example, page 42. If you have 3 plus authors, that's known as and more or an et al. So it would say Brown et al. If you were using the author's last name. And if there's no author, you would use a shortened version of the article's title. So global warming, page 3. That is critically important to make sure that you are aware of that. With that being said, if you use the author's name in a signal phrase, then the only thing you need to use is the page number. And there's a video that I've attached here for you in this PowerPoint that you can watch. That is a video within this YouTube video. This are just a question. Which of the following is the correct MLA citation for a book written by Linda Johnson on page 45? So option 1, you have Johnson, comma, 45. You have option 2, Johnson, 45. Option 3, Linda Johnson, 45. And then 4, page 45, Johnson. So what is the correct one? Hopefully you have guessed the correct one is number 2. The only thing missing right here is the punctuation after the parentheses, but number 2 is the second one. So going into that, I'm going to talk just quickly about signal phrases and what they are. The purpose of signal phrases is that they are words that introduce quotes or paraphrased information. They act like a sign and they tell the reader, here comes a source. Why do you use signal phrases? You use them because they integrate sources smoothly into your writing. They help your writing flow better. They help vary your sentence structure. And again, once you have introduced the author's first and last name, you will only refer to the author by their last name. So an example here, assuming that I've already introduced our author, John Smith, then I would say, according to Smith, climate change is accelerating. And that is just a signal phrase. And like I said, I have some handouts for you or something in your week 6 content. These are common signal phrase verbs. You want to avoid using the word says every time. You want to choose verbs that reflect the author's specific tone or intent. Great options here I've listed. You can say states or notes. And if that's a neutral response, if it's an argumentative claim or a persuasive claim, you can say they argue or they claim. If it's a tentative claim, then you could use suggest or implies. If it's an informative claim, then you would say explains or clarifies. If it is a factual research project, then you would say reports or observed. And the reason why you want to do that is because you need to use specific verbs. It will make your analysis stronger and your writing more precise. And that's extremely important as you are an emerging writer and you learn these skills. And believe me, it does take some practice to develop it. So again, here is an example. Here are a few ways to introduce source material using different verbs and structures. So you could say Smith argues that the data is inconclusive. Or you can say, according to researchers, the experiment failed. Or you can say, the CDC reports that cases have been declined. Notice I have the signal portions here and the verbs highlighted and bolded. Now, I do have this arrow here at the bottom where it says these signal phrases are very simple, but they will work. At this point, you're an emerging writer, so we're not looking for super sophisticated writing. We're looking for you to get the basics down. Your sophisticated writing will come in time. In advanced writing, you would want to name your researcher's name. So again, and I have this signal phrase example here, a screenshot. Thomas and Art point out that as authors age and enter each stage of life, their perspectives on the world change. Not only do their perspectives change, also their means of expressing attitudes and judgments, notice end quote, change. And then I have the parenthetical citation at the end with the page number and the period at the end. So again, that's a pretty sophisticated example. But it is certainly an example. And notice I have the authors mentioned at the beginning, and so that is bolded. And so the only thing I would need to put at the end is the page number. That being said, going into the next one, combining signal phrases and citations. If you have the author in a sentence, only the page number is needed in parentheses, as I've stated before. So according to Smith, students struggle with citations. Page number. If the organization is the author's name, for example, the Center for Disease Control, you can say the CDC reports cases are rising, and then you would put the page number there. Multiple authors in a signal phrase use the word and in between names in the text. So Johnson and Lee state that results vary. If it's an online source, again, if there's no page number, you're going to use a shortened version of the title of the article. The trouble with teaching citations. So the example that I've given here is, as Wilson explains in her article, the trend is growing. And then notice the period is at the end. So the very important note I have for you at the bottom is punctuation always goes after the citation. This is one of the biggest issues that students struggle with when they are first beginning to start their parenthetical citations. I'm going to skip this slide because I'm going to let you watch the video on your own. But this is a video from the Modern Language Association on the basics of MLA citations. I would suggest you watch it over and over again until you grasp it and get it down. These are some of the biggest mistakes that I see in student writing. Some students drop the page number. If you forget the page numbers for a print source, that is a common error. The periods are oftentimes misplaced. The period goes after the citation. And folks, I will tell you, as a advanced writer, as someone who continues to write papers week after week, because I am also a student myself, this is something that I also struggle with. So it will be something that I look for, because it is something that is so very important to remember. Using first names is another one. After you have used the author's first and last name once, you will then only refer to the author by their last name in parenthetical citations and in signal phrases as well. And then, of course, forgetting paraphrases. You have to cite paraphrased ideas because it's not your original work. Have to paraphrase summary, or you have to cite summaries. You have to cite direct quotes. That is non-optional. But these are all things and all common mistakes that students make when they are first beginning to work with parenthetical citation. So quick tips for success for you. What I would recommend doing is to track while you are beginning your research. You know, the final project for this class is to write a 2-page argumentative research paper. You want to write down your author and your page number immediately when you take notes. Now, in this week's reading, you don't have a page number, so you would just use the author's name in your parenthetical citation, and that is the snare nose. If you mention the author's name in your signal phrase, then you would use an excerpted or shorter version of the title, and it's my name. That is literally the name of the excerpt. Cite as you write. Insert your parenthetical citation right after you finish typing the sentence. Even if you don't know what to put in here, one of my rules of thumb is I usually write insert citation here. And then I know when I go back to revise it and proofread it and fix it before submission that I have to insert my citation. It's just a reminder. And then double check everything. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to double check everything before you submit. Verify that every parenthetical citation matches an entry in your works cited list. Your works cited is a separate page. It is not on the same page as your response. It is a completely different page. If you are using a Mac computer, please note that the formatting does not always come through correctly. I usually do not punish students for that, but it is something that is extremely important to make sure that it is on a separate page. This last slide here is a proper works cited entry. It does need a hanging indent. And what you would do is you would have your author, you have Amy Sherman and Robin Warhol, The Unspeakable, The Unmarketable, and Repudiation of Epiphany and Recitataff, a collaboration between linguistic and literary feminist narratologies. And it's from the Journal of Textual Practice, Volume 32, Number 6, 2018, pages 1007 to 25. Now, you're probably like, I would never read something like that. This will come in later courses, but that is a proper parenthetical citation for a scholarly article. This is what a proper works cited page looks like. The title of works cited, is centered. And then you have your hanging indent. You have your last names first, your titles, your journal titles. And then, of course, you have your different options here. Now, again, this is a just a works cited page example. It is not an end all be all, but you can use easybib.com. You can use Purdue OWL as a reference. If you just type in the title of what you are looking for, typically it will help you generate a citation. If you're still struggling, then please let me know. Additionally, there is a chapter in your book for citations, and the MLA handbook, which also has a website, will assist you in many ways. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. I know that was a very quick overview of what was being covered this week. But again, it is week 6. You are in the mid-term portion of the course. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that you can look at your assignment for your midterm reflection. So I'm going to click on edit folder just so you can see, because again, this is teacher view. But your prompt is to write a one page, that means 300 words, one page reflection, analyzing your development as a writer at this point in the course. In your response, you need to address the following areas. What have I learned about myself as a writer so far? What grammar or writing skill has improved the most? What piece best shows my progress and why? And how has feedback affected my writing? And you haven't done any collaboration, so I'm just going to go ahead and fix that. How has feedback affected my writing? So your starting point that I would recommend is describe what kind of writer you were at the beginning of the course. What challenges, what fears, what habits affected your writing process? How did you approach the assignments, organization, or grammar early in the term? And then go from there. Discuss your growth and progress. Discuss how your writing has evolved, which class activities, readings, or assignments have helped you improve. How has feedback from your instructor influenced your revisions and confidence? You can even throw in peers there, because if you've asked a classmate or if you've spoken with somebody that is also a student at SFSC, you can certainly utilize that. Identify one or two specific writing pieces from your portfolio, which you haven't really started yet. You just got introduced to it last week, that shows your progress. And then your goals moving forward. Reflect on what you still want to strengthen during the rest of the semester. What specific strategies will you use to improve, such as planning more effectively, revising with purpose, or seeking feedback? Explain why these goals matter for your growth as a writer and thinker. See why I said I needed it to be 300 words and one full page. Are there any assignments that really helped or did not help? Is there something that you would change? And I'm not going to say in-class activities because we're not actually physically in class. Remember, this is part of your portfolio, so I need for you to be honest. I also use this as a reflection tool for myself for the next time that I teach the course. And so I would greatly appreciate your honesty in it. And if you're still struggling, please let me know. As always, all assignments need to be in MLA format. And your paragraphs need to be indented. If you utilize a source, you will need to have proper citations. And if you have any questions, again, you can reach out. You can send me an email. I am in town until Friday morning. But as of Friday morning, I am leaving to go out of state and will not return until the 21st of March. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. And please feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email. I'll be checking my emails. I may or may not check them sporadically over break, but my husband plans on keeping me pretty occupied with activities as we are going to New York City. Very excited. And my service will be limited as he plans on taking away the phone so that I can actually get some rest. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Enjoy your spring break. Please take time for yourself and please rest. And as always, maintain integrity. Have a great week.